Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Darren Smith, along with the one and only Mr. Steve Walls, and we are live from Nissan, or inside of Nissan, Tennessee. The Kansas City Chiefs will be taking on the Tennessee Titans in a noon kickoff, obviously just a little under an hour. Kansas City, of course, coming into today's ballgame with a 3-3 record. Steve, first of all, welcome back once again to Nashville, Tennessee, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I love Nashville. It's like the home away from home. Let's just see what the Chiefs can do and make it a home away from home.
Yeah, so of course, Tennessee comes into today's ballgame with a 4-2 record. They're coming off of a big Monday night win and an upset win of the Buffalo Bills right here that they took place last week, Monday night here against the Buffalo Bills. So the team before that, of course, Buffalo knocked out with Kansas City at Arrowhead. So Buffalo, they fell to 4-2. Tennessee went to 4-2. The last time these two teams played right here, Kansas City lost that game 35-13. You and I, we were in the tunnel for the last moments of the ball game where they mishandled the kick and missed the field goal. But of course, Kansas City ended up getting their revenge on Tennessee in the AFC Championship game back at Arrowhead on their trip to the Super Bowl. So, Steve, what are your initial thoughts on today's matchup between the Chiefs and the Titans?
You know what? The Chiefs, not only that last game that they had here, but if you can remember, Frank Clark had some words for Mr. King Henry.
He did.
And I think the Kansas City Chiefs defense got the best of the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry that day. So I think that is going to be one of the key things that the Tennessee Titans have in the back of their mind is not only being knocked out of the playoffs, but also Frank Clark writing a check that his team had to go cash.
Before we go further, I do want to send our thoughts and prayers out to my guy, Jimmy Dodds. Of course, he was at FS1. Now he's right here locally with the Blades with our Jason Whitlock. So I want you to get a speedy recovery. I know you're down in Florida getting better, so just want you to know we are thinking about you. But Steve, looking at you, as you talked about King Henry, there was talk literally, and look, we got a lot to discuss over the next half hour. There were talks on ESPN on Friday. If you were picking a team or if you were picking a player, who would it be between Derrick Henry and Patrick Mahomes? Now, Derrick Henry, to his credit, leads the league. I think he's about 250 yards ahead of his nearest competitor or nearest runner-up for the league lead in rushing, and he also leads the league with 10 rushing touchdowns. When you see what this Kansas City Chiefs defense look like, yes, they did pick it up in that second half of the Washington football team game, but what we've seen over the last 6.5 weeks, how do they come out and how do they face off against King Henry when you know that they're going to be making business decisions if he gets a full head of steam and runs downhill?
I think it's what, Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo said earlier this week, and some of the other defensive players. It's like, hey, you got to kill that engine. Take away his legs. We know we have to put all hats towards the ball, but I feel like because of the talk has been all Derrick Henry, I think they're going to come out and do just the opposite. I feel like they're going to go with Julio and the other receivers that they have out there.
Yeah, I was talking to Chiefs radio analyst Dana Hughes, had him on the podcast this week, and we were also talking pregame, and we were along the same line of thinking that there's going to be so much focus on Derrick Henry that you kind of forget. Not only do they have A.J. Brown, but as you mentioned, Julio Jones, and those are two big physical receivers, especially Julio. Julio's one of the best. He's one of the top 5, best in the game right now. And so if he's healthy or is anywhere near what he is looking to be in today's game, that could cause problems on the outside, especially if you try to go one-on-one with someone like him. So like you said, to your point, they might focus so much on Derrick Henry that they forget about the outside receivers. And look, you cannot, even though he may not have had a big game thus far with the Tennessee Titans in his arrival with Derrick Henry, that's not to say that today can't be their day.
I agree. But the Titans also know that they are 20-2 when Derrick Henry rushes for over 100 yards. So they're going to try to give it to him early and get to that 100-yard mark because it betters their chances. Now, today is the first game that we've seen 10 out of the 11 starters from the Kansas City Chiefs. Chris Jones and also Charvarius Ward will be added to the active roster today.
And speaking of that, what do you think that they, what does Kansas City miss by their absence, and what do they bring back to this Kansas City Chiefs defense? Because let's not miss words, they wasn't exactly playing well when they went down with injury.
And that was exactly my question to Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo earlier this week. I asked him, I said, well, when you don't have those guys in there, your key guys, are there things that you can't get to? And, of course, he said, no, we just draw up something else. But I really feel like look, Chris Jones is one of the highest paid defensive players in the league, defensive lineman in the league. Frank Clark is the highest paid defensive lineman in the league. So it has to be that, okay, we don't have those guys in there. There's some things that we aren't able to do as far as getting after the quarterback. And Travis Ward not being in there, he's a leader on this defense along with Tyrann Mathieu. So getting those guys back, I feel like you're going to be able to have all hands on deck.
Looking at this game today, again, Kansas City Chiefs, they're one of the top 5 offensive teams in the, one of the top 5 offensive teams in the league right now. And of course, Patrick Mahomes leads the league in touchdowns with 19. Now, look, what we've seen from Patrick Mahomes, and we have seen where he's, I don't want to say he's struggled because, again, he does lead the league in touchdowns, but his accuracy, some of the mistakes that he's made with the 8 interceptions. We do know that, again, in the Washington football game, in the second half of that ball game, the team picked things up and they put everything together. Yep. So my initial question is, can they carry that over? And then if not, what does Patrick Mahomes need to do to try to, if not eliminate, but lessen the mistakes that he had in the previous 6 ball games?
That's just it. You have to eliminate those turnovers. But granted, the team still was able to do, and I know it was just only the Washington football team, but still it's any given Sunday. However, even with the 3 turnovers that they had last week, 2 of them came in the first half, and the Chiefs were still in the ball game, only down a field goal. So when you look at from that standpoint, it's like, okay, we can have a turnover or 2 and still be in the ball game, but that's not going to be able to happen against good teams. This Tennessee Titans team, if you turn the ball over and allow them to score first, you're going to get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry. So you need to score every time that you have your hands on the football.
My other question would be is that I think the mistakes come because if the defense somehow doesn't make a stand or whatever, and the team comes back and score specifically a touchdown, the offense, Patrick Mahomes, kind of feel like they have to score right away. And not only do they feel like they have to score, but they have to score quickly. And I think that's where the mistakes end up coming in at, because instead of you just playing your game and look, it may take 2 possessions, it may take 12 plays or whatever, as long as the end result is the same. But the thing is, if you score quickly, you got to put your team back out there, right? You put the defense back out there right away where they don't have a real chance to maybe catch their breath or something and to get things together. And then next you know, they're right back out there and they're not, they don't have, they're whimsical about themselves. And now you're back out there. They potentially could be having another, 7 to 12 play drive drawn up against them. And so what that also does, that lessens the time that Kansas City will get to have the ball back to try to make something happen. And then again, you start pressing and you start rushing things, and then that's where again the mistake can happen, such as the interception that Patrick Stone lately.
Now here's the thing about that: as long as this team is able to get the running game involved, we haven't really seen it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This team isn't really made up of a big bruising running back. I mean, and we talk about it all the time. If Kareem Hunt was still with this team, or if Damian Williams was still with this team, it'd be a different story. You wouldn't have to be looked at as just a passing team. Teams would have to understand that, all right, they can also run the ball. Now you get it to where teams are going to sit back in the cover 2, and they're going to make you run. They're going to make you beat them with the running back and just say, okay, if you're going to have Darrell Williams out back there, granted, Darrell Williams looked good last game, but that was against Washington. Yeah. I feel like teams are still going to say, all right, we're going to let Darrell Williams put in work and show us that you're able to gain yards on our defense.
Now, look, speaking of Darrell Williams, last week he had his first start in the regular season as the Kansas City Chiefs running back. He did well. I think he had about 89 yards from scrimmage, had 2 touchdowns. We talk about, of course, he is a different type of running back than what Clyde Edwards-Helaire is. How does that work in Kansas City's favor? Now, look, we do know that, the best offense is a good defense, and the best defense against Derrick Henry is for the Chiefs to have long, extended drives to where, and then also if you can get up on Tennessee instead of the other way around so they can utilize him more often and to force him to pass the ball. How does the running game help Kansas City in today's ball game?
Well, I don't feel like you want to slow the ball game down. I really don't. I think you want to get to what you're good at. You don't want to look, and we talk about it all the time. It's like, all right, people are wanting to put Patrick Mahomes in this box and say, hey, we don't want you to run around and make plays and do what got you here. We want you to be careful Patrick Mahomes. Now hold on, it's not you, but it's Chiefs fans that they want Patrick to sit back and not be aggressive, so to speak. They don't want him to get out in the flats. And I'm like, no, that's what got him here. That's his game. When you heard Eric Bieniemy earlier this week say, when they're having fun, that's when they're winning.
I agree.
So you don't want to slow the ball game down.
No. Okay. But my only pushback to that would be is Chiefs fans don't mind if Patrick Mahomes is out there whirling and trolling and throwing the ball behind his back and stuff like that. They just want to be accurate. But also, Patrick can throw the ball, but it is up to receivers. Tyreek Hill has had a couple of games where it's bounced off his hands, off his shoulder pads, and got to this stuff. So he can throw the ball. Patrick, we want to be accurate if he doesn't be accurate, but also it is up to the players to make sure that they catch the ball and don't put Patrick in a situation where you're intercepting the ball, turn the ball over, and now
that's just it. A lot of those were. Well, one of them was a no look to Marcus Kemp, and it was like, well, if he wouldn't have threw a new lick, I don't feel like Marcus Kemp would have caught that, even if he was looking at him and said, Marcus, I'm going to throw it right to you. So, and then the other two other ones were Tyreek Hill, where it just went right through his hands. Now, 9 times out of 10, Tyreek's going to make that play, and we've seen it time and time again. But this is one of those fluky things that just happened, and I think they're back on track now. They've talked about it. I think Tyreek has changed those grip boost gloves and has a little bit more stickum added to him. So I think they'll be fine today.
One of the things that we definitely want to take a look at and remember from the first game 2 years ago that these two teams played here is special teams. Harrison Butker in that game was 4 or 5. Of course, the last kick that he missed was a miscommunication between he and Dustin Cole. Now, he's been perfect so far this season, so we don't want to jinx him at all. Harrison, whatever you're doing, continue to do. Don't listen up. But how a special teams play a role, because obviously, field position, if the Chiefs end up having a punt or the kickoff punt returns, how big of a factor will special teams play in today's ball game?
I think Mecole Hardman has to keep at it, because we Dave Tove said earlier this week as well that, hey, special teams is like the igniter for the rest of the offense.
But I'm also sure Dave Tove doesn't want a fair catch on the ball on the 5-yard line either.
That's true. So he also said that Mecole has to read the ball better. If it's one of those balls that is kind of forward going on the spin, then you let that go, because that's going to go to the end zone. Now, if it's one of the ones that is just going to sit there, it's going to drop. You need to catch that and try to do what you're able to do. But I think Mecole has learned from that. And let's face it, it's his 3rd year. I know everybody wants him to be great as Tyreek Hill right now, but Tyreek Hill in his 3rd year, what was he? I feel like he was kind of in that same boat.
I think Tyreek in his 3rd year wasn't returning kicks anymore. I think
he wasn't exactly. But I've said this as well. It's like, all right, do you want Mecole to be a return specialist, or do you want him to be a wide receiver? And I feel like his wide receiving game would be a lot better if he didn't have to worry about being a return specialist.
One of the things that Chiefs fans might not know is that I think this is the one team that Andy Reid has the worst record against. He's 2-8. He's only won 20% again. The 2 wins. I can't remember when the first one was, but obviously, the second one came in the AFC Championship game. He's 2-8. Mike Vrabel is 1-1 as a head coach against the Chiefs. Of course, the win here in 2019, and then of course a loss in the AFC Championship game to the Chiefs. Coaching, I mean, look, we expect Andy Reid to be able to, to overcome any and all obstacles. How does coaching play a factor in today's ball game?
Keep your foot on the gas, Andy. That's what we learned in 2019, right?
Yeah.
Regular season game, he didn't keep his foot on the gas, and that was one of the game that was highlighted that said, hey, Andy, you got to keep your foot on the gas. And since then, we haven't had an issue with it. So we don't want fans to be sitting in this hot sun, 80-degree day, and Chiefs get up 7 points, 14 points, 2 touchdowns, and then the Titans come battling back. Because remember, Ryan Tannehill, that's the guy that you have to be worried about.
If I remember, that might have been his first start against Kansas City 2 years ago, and yeah, he had a decent ball game. But again, that ball game was all about Derrick Henry, though, because at the end of the day, he still had 188 yards rushing on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Again, to me now, we'll jump right into this. What are your keys to today's ball game? 1, if you're the Tennessee Titans first, and then 2, Kansas City.
If you're the Tennessee Titans, do exactly what I was saying earlier. Make the Kansas City Chiefs beat you with their running game. Take away Tyreek Hill. Try to take away Travis Kelce as best as you can, and make someone else beat you. Now we've seen, and I'm sure it's on film that what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to do. Now I don't quite think that the Tennessee Titans defense has the same type of athletes as far as their linebacking core that up with Travis Kelce. So I think in that instance, they still need to be able to make the Chiefs beat them with the run. Now on the Chiefs offensive side of the ball, you really want to get out and score first. That's just it. You don't want to be able to have your defense go out there, get a 3 and out, and you come out there and have to punt the football and put your defense right back out there. So I really believe they need to score first.
For me, for Tennessee, it really is going to be about Derrick Henry. You know that the Chiefs have one of the worst rushing defenses and they got one of the worst defenses, period. I'm going to take advantage of it and make them stop the run, make them show that they're willing to commit to stopping the run, because what Kansas City has not been able to do is they have not been able to win at the line of scrimmage. And so if I'm the Tennessee Titans, I'm going to beat you up front first. I'm going to have my linemen beat you up front, especially, if you're going to utilize the passing game, you're going to have to set up. You're going to have to use the run to set it up. Yeah. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm looking to get Derrick Henry involved early and often. They're going to have to prove to me that they're man enough to stand there and to go after and to tackle Derrick Henry. So again, I want to make Juan Thornhill, especially Tyrann Mathieu, Sorensen, anybody else. I want them to make that business decision when they come up to the line of scrimmage that they're willing to, with a head full of steam, take out Derrick Henry. That's first and foremost. Then on the flip side, if you're Kansas City, I mean, if you get a chance and you have and Tennessee wins the coin toss and they elect to defer, you've got to score. You can't score a field goal. You got to come out with a touchdown. Right. Now, that's not to say that they'll still come out trying to run the football. But if you can get up 7-0, and by chance your defense can actually get them to go 3 and out or force them to punt, then that gives you a chance to come back. And now, if you can score again, preferably a touchdown, now you're at 14-0. Now you can take the ball out of Derrick Henry's hand, put it into Ryan Tannehill, and now we can kind of let the chips fall where they may.
But I really think that this Chiefs defensive line is going to come out with fire. This, like I said, this is the first time that they played together this season. Even since before preseason, since last season actually, because Frank Clark wasn't in there. So I think Chris Jones and Frank Clark, they're going to have to get after that quarterback and force Ryan Tannehill to throw some turnovers. I really believe that's what's going to happen there. You're going to see at least one interception today. That's my prediction.
One of the players that we haven't talked about is Travis Kelce. Of course, he generally has big games when Patrick needs him. Last week he had 8 catches for a team high 99 yards. He's been a little banged up. I know Andy Reid is kind of limited to him in practice this week, as well as Tyreek Hill with his quad contusion. What type of ball game are you expecting out of those two today?
Well, I feel like Travis Kelce, there's no one in the NFL that can guard him. I think it's a pick your poison type deal. If you're gonna either choose to stop Tyreek Hill or you're gonna choose to stop Travis Kelce. But a lot of people look at it as though, all right, well, you got those two guys, but what about the other guys? You also still have Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson, and Mecole Hardman. We did talk about Mecole Hardman, but it seems like he and Patrick Mahomes are developing a little bit more chemistry. Yeah. If you look over the last 2 games, Mecole started out pretty well. So I think Mecole and Byron Pringle have to have a big day today.
And Mecole against Buffalo was the team's leading receiver in that game. I think he had 9 catches as well. So,
but people won't say that though. Like that's
why we said it.
It wasn't exactly. It wasn't a pretty day. Like I mean, he had the over the shoulder on the sideline early in the first half. But I think he's going to have to get more of those, because if the focus is going to be on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, you're going to have to show up.
Yeah, now we are live from inside or outside We're on the inside of Nissan Stadium. Of course, as you see, it's a little windy right now with us here, but look, there are Chiefs fans all over the building. I mean, we were to turn the cameras around. Chiefs fans are just everywhere right now. So they're taking over Nashville. Steve, of course, you got it yesterday. I got it on Friday. Kansas City, the Chiefs fans are everywhere. They've taken over. How much will the crowd factor be in today's ball game? Because again, the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, if we just step to the side right quick, you can kind of see Chiefs fans are taking over. Like there's a sea of red everywhere, and they're walking all around here right now, Steve.
Yeah, and one of those things that I always look at, and I've watched Chiefs President Mark Donovan and General Manager Brett Veach when they're sitting in the press box, and and the national anthem is being sung, and they go home of the. And if they judge the crowd off of home of the Chiefs, and so they always give a little fist bump if it's a good one. I think today is going to be one of those ones because people love Nashville. It's 7.5-8 hour drive. It's not far. Yeah, so I think people just want to come down here, and it's 80 degrees. So you see people out here in tank tops and shorts, and it's going to be a great day today for some football.
And look, no cap, this is a very beautiful stadium too. Now, of course, it's a lot more open. You look at Jackson, you look at some of the stadiums that we've been at. Washington's an old school stadium, FedEx Field, kind of like Arrowhead. It is what it is. So I mean, but you don't get this type of openness that you have at some of the other stadiums. Like it was when we were in Baltimore. Philly's a little bit like that as well because of the design and stuff like that. So this is probably one of the best places that you and I have been able to travel to and to cover the Kansas City Chiefs. Steve, let's see, we got about 9 minutes left. Let's go straight to how you think this game is going to play out and how you see it unfolding and who wins today's ball game.
I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think they're going to win by a large margin.
Really?
I really do. I think the Chiefs are going to be able to score 40 points. This is going to be one of those games, man, where you're going to say, well, dang, where's this team come from? This is the Chiefs team that we're used to seeing. Because you got to remember, early on in the season, they had the toughest schedule in the NFL. So now it's easing up a little bit. And I won't say Tennessee's a cakewalk by any means, but this team isn't a Baltimore Ravens. They don't have a defense like the Baltimore Ravens. However, I say that, and then they go beat the Buffalo, not the Buffalo Bills, right? So I really believe that the Chiefs are going to come out and score 40 points. I think the Chiefs defense is going to step up, and that's going to be another reason that people are going to say, all right, Monday morning quarterback right around the water cooler at work, they're going to say, well, dang, I hope this defense is here to stay. So with that being said, 40-17 is going to be my score prediction.
40-17.
Oh yeah, it's going to be like that today.
Steve, if the Chiefs offense is scoring 40, my question is going to be how many points is the defense giving up for it to get. That's wishful thinking. Mm-hmm. I would love that more than anything. Mm-hmm. I do have Kansas City winning. I just don't know if they covered. The point spread is right now, I think 4.5. I think the Chiefs win this ball game. I think it's more kind of like what it was in 2019. I think it's more 35-32. Because here's the thing. They had a good half against Washington. They still have to prove that they can carry that over and they can carry the momentum over. And that is just, and you got to remember, this Tennessee Titans team, much better team, much stronger team than what they face in Washington.
Agreed.
They do have a quarterback that has proven that he can beat, that they can beat Kansas City. Mm-hmm. They've always had problems thus far this season with teams that run the football and run it effectively. We saw what happened against Baltimore. We saw what happened even against Buffalo. We saw what happened against even Cleveland, even though they won that game.
Right.
But we also saw what they did against the Chargers. This is going to be the strongest, the most difficult running challenge that Kansas City is going to face. Now, I do think so? Derrick Henry.
I think Cleveland. I think Cleveland was because you got a two-headed monster. Once one goes out, the other one's coming right in.
That's true. But the flip side is, as I mentioned before, because you got Derrick Henry, as physical as he is, you also got two physical wide receivers as well. So, so that's going to be a challenge.
I agree.
Within itself, and so that's why I think it's going to much closer. It's going to be much tighter. I do agree with you though that the Chiefs going to have to score, and I think they score enough, and then the points that the Tennessee get are going to be catch-up points that's going to make the game look much closer than it appears. Kind of like your driver or passenger side mirror. So I got the Chiefs winning 35-32. I don't think they cover.
Close.
Yeah, I think it's close. I don't think it comes down to special teams again because I think in that situation, here's the thing. If they're kicking 5 field goals today, like they did some years ago, they're in trouble. Because again, we saw how that outcome, how that outcome ended. I do still believe though that that the Chiefs, I think they're the better overall team. I think they will show it. But again, the Kansas City, they have to play a clean football.
Of course.
Penalties are penalties are going to be what they're going to be. And look, I would rather to avoid Julio Jones scoring an 80-yard touchdown catch. I'd rather you pass interfere, just throw him out of bounds or something, and then take the penalty and then try to let the defense stop him. But I think at the end of the day, Kansas City's offensively is going to be too much for them to handle. But I think Kansas City wins 35-32.
That close.
Well, again, I think Kansas City will have a 14, 17-point lead, and then as you get to the fourth quarter, Tennessee just kind of they just cut the lead down some, so to make it a little more respectable.
No, I think the reason I don't think it's going to be that close is because the Chiefs understand that if it is that close, they're going to see that heavy dose of Derrick Henry, they don't want to. And this is the thing about Derrick Henry. This is the thing about Derrick Henry. He gets stronger. The later in the game it goes.
Yeah.
So fourth quarter, he's averaging, I believe, like seven yards a carry.
6.5.
Yeah. So you don't want to see Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter where they get to pitch out to the left or the right, and you got to worry about that stiff arm.
And again, that's why it's important for the Chiefs to get up and to get up on them early and to stay on top of them and keep that foot on their neck, because as you mentioned, if Derrick Henry, if that game is close going into the fourth quarter, it might not end well for Kansas City, because they will use the running game to not only to wear you down, but to keep that offense and Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines, to where by the time he gets into the game, there's like 2 minutes left in the ball game, and he's trying to rush him, and then that's where he starts pressing, and mistakes can happen.
Yeah, man, that's why they play the football game, right? Any given Sunday.
So, Steve, before we get out of here, please let everybody know, one, where they can tune in to us tomorrow night, but also who styled you today.
You can tune in to us tomorrow night. You come down and hang out with us. We'll be at Soiree Steak and Oyster House, 18th and Vine, right on the corner of 18th and Paseo. Come down. You can have some good food and good Chiefs talk conversation. It's always fun. Myself, Darren Smith, Uncle Sean Tyler, and also DJ Q. We're at it every Monday, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Soiree Steak and Oyster House. Thank you to my good friends over at Dillard's on the Rosa. Go check them out. You can go and grab a nice suit. You can get your lady something. Women, you can go out there. They have makeup, everything that you might need. But for the men, made to measure. You can go out there and get a custom tailored suit. Talk to my friends Broderick, and also it's a good time out there at Dillard's. Just go grab you something and go out a night on the town. Take your wife out on a night.
Good guy. Good thing. My guy Steve looking good. Make sure you go out there and support Dillard's out there. Of course, my guy Todd White over at Todd's Clothing and Tailored Suits of 2 locations, 21st and Broadway, as well as inside the Ward Parkway Mall over on State Line in Kansas City, Missouri. Always has me stylish, game day ready, suited and booted. And look, I mean, got great deals going on right now. Of course, if you got homecoming, if you got weddings, anything like that, or you just want to look, the casual business wear, corporate look, or if you just want to look game day ready like Steve and I, just make sure you stop by there. Tell him I sent you. He'll take care of you. And make sure you join us on our respective platforms post-game, as Steve and I will be bringing you the Chiefs post-game presser live from downstairs inside of Nissan Stadium. So for Steve Walls, which you can find him on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Steve Walls KC. Of course, you can find me on Facebook at Darren Smith 816, on Twitter, Darren _ Smith WHB, and on Instagram at Darren Smith WHB. Till then, be careful with us and make sure that you catch up with us post game on our respective platforms. Go Chiefs! We are out of here.